Bidenomics equals destruction of the middle class. What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, November the 19th, and Thanksgiving is around the corner, and the cost of eating has gone up thanks to, of course, our wonderful administration and Bidenomics as they continue to destroy this country, trying to bring in socialism or communism or Marxism, and no bigger sign of that than when we saw the reception in San Francisco for President Xi of China and all the communist China flags floating around, the cleanup of the city, the hellhole and shithole of San Francisco was cleaned up nicely. And of course, Xi kicked ass once again. And as Biden touted the success and calls Xi a dictator, blowing all of the goodwill. Look, Xi is a dictator. There's not any secret of that. There is no secret that China is trying to take over the world. Okay, and certainly with President Biden's help, they're going to get every opportunity to get there, because certainly we continue to give away everything that is ours, and I think it's rather a sad state of affairs when you see commercial after commercial touting what a great job Biden is doing, lowering cost of families' everyday expenses. Now, again, I'm not going to tell you what your life is like or if your expenses have been lowered. I ask you to ask yourself, are you paying more or less? Are you living better today than you were 4 years ago? Okay, that's the question to ask. Ronald Reagan said it best. Okay, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And if you are better off today, hey, God bless. I don't want you to be unhappy. I don't want you to not be better off. But the facts and the stats are clear. Oil prices are 53% higher since the Biden administration took over. Groceries are 20% higher since the Biden administration took over, and the average income is about $7,000 a year lower. Again, those aren't my numbers. Those are numbers that are printed in statistical that are out there. Okay, more people working at any point in American history. Really, all I see is job cuts, job layoffs, and a loss of jobs. Now, I've had arguments about the topics, but again, you can manipulate and spin the numbers of the Bureau of Labor Statistics any way you want. Okay, less people are working in percentage. Now, again, remember, we have to remember that we have to talk about percentage basis, not talk about numbers, because there's a bigger population. So it's the same as when we talk about credit card debt. Okay, the dollar numbers are staggering, but so is but not in comparison to the cost of the earnings or the wages. The only statistic we can talk about in credit cards is that never in American history have more people been at limit on their credit card. The dollar is immaterial, okay? People are making more money in America? Well, okay, yeah, if you say so. But I will say this, and this is a fact again, the people are not making enough to overcome the cost of inflation, okay? So again, we look at inflation, and there are two different types of inflation. One that is built on demand and heavy usage in a successful economy where we continue to consume goods. The other built by government and a moronic Federal Reserve that overprints money because they can't keep up. And of course, the bond market is going to collapse within the next probably 6 months. The overspending of government. And of course, we know that on Friday, President Biden passed another bill or signed an executive order or whatever to keep the government open. And I want to ask you, who the fuck wants to keep the government open? Okay. Who wants to keep this spending machine? And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Okay. They're all stealing our money. Okay. Because remember, government and the Federal Reserve, they don't make money, they make debt. American taxpayers take care of that debt. And if you want to keep paying more taxes and more money to these jagoffs, okay, then hey, listen, I can't tell you how to live, I can't tell you how to think. I can only tell you that what I have seen and what I am witnessing is a disaster. Rebuilding our infrastructure, tell me one thing that has been rebuilt in our infrastructure. Yes, we've torn down a lot of statues. Okay? We've done a lot of things. We've created a lot of hatred. We've created a lot of racism. Okay, we've got a vice president who was asked a question why she was chosen for VP, and she's got no idea. Of course, we know what she is. Okay, so again, rebuilding our infrastructure, where? What has been rebuilt? Okay, I know that we've had our money stripped and stolen. Okay, I know that we have this ridiculous mandate on the climate change and the electronic vehicles, which we don't talk about the damage that those vehicles do, the stripping of the very core minerals that are needed in the ground, the overall point that we couldn't support the electronic vehicles anyways. And furthermore, I don't believe in climate change. But again, if you do, I'm not going to be mad. I don't care. You're entitled to your opinion. At least here on Bubba's Bottom Line, it's still a free America, okay? And a historic expansion of benefits and services for toxic exposed veterans. So far, I haven't read one thing to you that I find to be factual. I find a lot of fantasy island here, okay? But I don't see anything that's really factual, okay? But I do see, the Fed says that they're not quite done raising rates yet, which, look, we've talked about this quite a bit and extensively. I think the Fed will continue to raise rates. I think they have to. Because inflation is, first of all, is far higher than the numbers that were reported last week, okay? So that we know, okay? And again, this is something that you can only decide for yourself. Are you spending more money, okay? Are you in good shape or in bad shape? That's really what it comes down to, okay? But Susan Collins says that there's more rate hikes are probably going to come. Now, I think one of the saddest things is what's going on with the youth in this country as we continue to raise a generation of morons that are now, if you've seen or heard about the Osama bin Laden letter going around TikTok, okay, and the support for the Palestinians and against the Jews in this country, it is absolutely scary that we live this way. And this is the big thing, I think, in the social media world, because it's stymied, okay? We don't get the truth, all right? And here we are still in this country censoring conservative speech, but bringing on the overwhelming liberal side of the issue. And again, I stand dead in the middle, okay, personally. I am fiscally conservative and believe in your rights and the right to do what you think is right as long as it's within the laws. All right, but what we're seeing now here is just total, absolute destruction. And of course, it's taught. Our education system is by far the worst in any major country in the world. Okay, I'm not talking about third world nations. I'm talking about in competition of. All right, and of course, I love the double standard of the laws we have here, because why isn't President Biden having to answer for the classified document scandal? If that was President Trump, he'd be in jail already. Okay. Again, the double standard here is scary as to what's going on, because think about what they can do to an individual, okay, with their double standard. And I think we're starting to see the January 6th tragedy, or whatever you want to call it. There's people that think it was the worst thing ever to happen in America, whatever you want to call it, but it is now being shown that many of those protesters and many of those people that were causing problems were actually paid actors, okay? And you can see the video for yourself. You don't have to listen to me, but many of them were paid actors that were there actually winding it up and trying to create the amount of trouble that came from that. Now, again, I'm not defending it. I'm just telling you, I'm reporting certain facts here. And of course, we've talked about this in the past, but how did the post office lose $6.5 billion last year? Okay. And the question is why is there so many post offices? When's the last time you went to the post office? Okay. I mean, I can't remember the last time I mailed a letter. And I think that where I live, okay, there's 7 post offices within a 3-mile drive of my house. What do we need that for? Okay. And this is the problem with government, okay, and too big government. And it doesn't, you don't have to be any party of either party. The federal government was never designed to be the biggest employer in the world, okay? So again, if we go back to the Constitution, we have to ask ourselves these questions. And finally, of course, they've now found out that Michael Cohen, President Trump's attorney and the whistleblower, was lying. And now they don't know if he was lying about lying or not what he was doing. So I find it interesting how they can go after Trump every single day, but yet Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and the rest of them, we don't hear a peep. It's amazing. But this is Bubba's Bottom Line, which is also amazing. We're going to stop out here for a break, and we'll be right back with our market report after this break. What's up, kids? As we come into Thanksgiving weekend, of course, we'll be having our Black Friday special webinar, as we do every year, the day after Thanksgiving. But I want you all to have a great Thanksgiving. And remember our sponsors, Capital Trading Group. And again, listen, I'm giving you the brokers. I have many brokers, but I'm giving you the 2 that I prefer, one for futures and commodities and one for equities and options. And again, you should check them out. I vetted them. I use them. And whether you do, you don't need to use them, but it always pays to know your options, okay? In the meantime, Capital Trading Group for futures and commodities, they're by far the best. Answer the phone, take care of you, know how to understand the business. And I will always tell you, whether it's with Capital Trading Group or not, or Trader or not, have a separate options and equities broker and have a separate futures broker, okay? Because don't go to a company that facilitates one or the other. Have one that specializes in both. In the meantime, go to info.capitaltrading.com/Bubba, scrolling on the sides, and of course, trade your brokerage for options and equities. Look, they're $10 a month flat. That's the first thing. It saves me $100,000 a year in commissions. Number 2, okay, they got great service. Number 3, you can automate our portfolio trading at no cost. It's part of your membership. Check them out. Try.trader.com/Bubba, scrolling on the sides. And of course, our high school program, after rebooting, if you'd like to help us out, please check the bottom link and you can certainly join the Bubba. Now let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line and, of course, our market report. And of course, markets continue to go higher, which is, it is beyond me. But again, it's not for me to predict. It is for me to trade the market footprint. And, in all my shows during the week, all the training I do is that very simple thing. Don't think that you have to outguess the market. Follow it. Follow the chart. Follow the footprint. In the meantime, the 4 major indices were up all week, okay? And, S&P ended up about 70 points, I think, for the week. Meantime, we're long. We've been long all week. We've been long 4 weeks, okay? And our portfolios had monster weeks once again. Now, again, I'm not saying that we're always right. I'm saying that, again, don't fight it. If you feel compelled to fight the market, maybe you should step aside and watch. There's no penalty for observing the market, okay? You don't always have to be active or involved, especially if you don't agree with what's going on. But you should not be fighting the tape, they call it, okay? In the meantime, as I said, we're long all 4 major indices. They were all higher last week. The dollar, which we don't trade anymore, but it's only, we don't trade it because it's too expensive to trade. It's got nothing to do with our worry of the dollar or whatever, but because of the way you have to trade it through COMEX or whichever one of those New York exchanges, we don't want to pay the fees. That's all. When the euro currency does the same thing. In the meantime, the dollar index, we would be short. We don't trade anymore. The euro currency, we are still long. And of course, the euro currency goes in an exact opposite direction of the dollar. So if you were long the dollar, you would sell euro currency. If you were short the euro currency or wanted to be short long the dollar, you'd sell the euro currency. It's very simple, same thing. Okay, but you can do that in a regulated exchange at no extra fees. It's a CME, and we are still long. Bitcoin is popping again. Okay, and we're still long Bitcoin. Okay, in the copper markets, copper we are still short. Okay, and natural gas we are still short. Crude oil, we are still short. Now again, so what? Friday had a little bit of a pop, so what? I mean, look, I think crude oil is going a lot higher. Okay, I think OPEC's going to cut production once again. But the weakness of the pricing here tells you how bad and how weak the economy is right now. In the meantime, the bonds and the notes, we continue to be long, and they're turning around. They're not doing anything bananas. But they're trying to break out from the bottoms here. But I think, again, we're long, but I think this rally will fail. In the metals, gold, we're long, and it's close to 2,000 again. Silver, we're long, and that looks like it's starting to run. And platinum, which we don't trade anymore, but it has had a nice little move off of 840. Okay, now trading over 900. In the grain markets, again, we're short corn, we're short wheat. They continue to struggle. Now, I like them. From I do own some in a different account. Okay, I'm short and long corn and wheat. I do think there's a pop coming. I think they're holding up pretty well. But again, you got to remember that the overall deflationary cycle that we have to worry about as well. And soybeans were long. Cattle had a little bounce last week. Now we don't trade it anymore, but we would be short. And cattle is well overpriced, well accounted for, and I'd be a seller of any rally in cattle. Hogs, the next protein, we would be long, but again, we don't trade them right now. And in the softs, cocoa had a nice up week, we're still long. OJ had a nice up week, we're still long. Sugar had a nice up week, we're still long. Coffee had a nice up week, we're long. And cotton was kind of flattish during the week, and we're still short. So again, but I think you can expect this week to be extremely slow. I don't expect a lot of action because, of course, it is a holiday, and even though the markets are open Black Friday, okay, it's been really slow to begin with, which is scary in its own right, and I think it only gets slower. So we'll see how it trades out. Again, I can't predict that. I can only tell you there's a lot of issues to be worried about. But that doesn't mean that you should run and cry chicken little. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Top Bubba Horror. So let's step out here for a break and come back with, of course, my commentary and football picks right after the break. What up, kids? Well, again, I'm not going to go through the whole speech, but remember our partners, Capital Trading Group and Trade Your Brokerage, scrolling on the sides, and of course, along the bottom, our high school program. And now, let us get back to Bubba's Bottom Line, and of course my commentary for the week and the rest. So let's get back to it right now. Welcome back. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, November the 19th, and I tell you, it's amazing the hypocrisy that we see in the world of sports right now. I don't know if you watched the Thursday night football game, but it was clear that Joe Burrow was hurt before the game. Okay, they showed a picture of him with a cast on, an air cast or whatever, a brace, whatever, on his throwing hand. And as it turns out, he's done for the season. Needs shoulder surgery. Now, again, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for Cincinnati that it happened. But the information should have been out there because nobody knew that there was any thought or worry of an injury. Okay, and he was clearly injured coming in. And, you talk about integrity and integrity of the sport. Well, now that football, and we're sports bettors. I'm not complaining about the bookmakers. I'm talking about in general, you have to have full disclosure of information that could affect, because I'm sure some people knew what was going on and some people didn't. And you have to wonder why that works that way. And that's why, these injury reports are really, have to be much more clean and straight about this, especially if you're going to tie yourself to the gambling industry. I mean, I'm a big fan of the gambling industry, but I think, and it had no effect on me. I had no position in the game whatsoever. Okay. But I do think that the reporting of injuries, okay, because we've had a couple of times this year where there's been some very questionable things that if you had the right information and you knew what was going on, you could have made a fortune through the betting window. And I think that's something that we have to be concerned about, the integrity of the marriage between bookmaking and professional sports, or bookmaking and college sports. Again, they have to be above board all the time. Inside information cannot be a part of the game. Everything has to be disclosed. Whether you listen to it or not is another story, but disclosure is really important, so that if you do study and you do look, then that information should be readily available. So again, I Cincinnati Bengals in the NFL, I give you 2 slaps in the head for blowing this, because this really is a big thing. And we're now seeing other things that have happened throughout this season. And going forward, we need to have full disclosure. In the meantime, it is football Sunday. And of course, we only like a couple of games. It's really a pretty tough card. But we do like, believe it or not, we like the Cleveland Browns, -1 against Pittsburgh. They lost their quarterback, Deshaun Watson. They're starting a rookie. But we do like Cleveland against Pittsburgh, laying the 1. Now, on the other side of the equation, we like the Miami Dolphins laying 12 against the Las Vegas Raiders, who we expect to get blown out this week. In the meantime, everybody, if I don't see you sooner, or have a great Thanksgiving, and I'm thankful that you do tune in every Sunday. And to the rest of you, I'll see you tomorrow with Bubba's Update. And until then, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you later.